The Trade Promotion Authority, what used to be called Fast Track, where Congress basically ties its own hands when trade bills are presented by the president, is being hot and heavy. I mean, it got out of the Senate, and now it's over in the House of Representatives, and the debate around it is getting pretty intense. John Boehner is trying to round up as many Republicans as he can. Nancy Pelosi apparently is trying to round up as many Democrats as she can. Simon Rosenberg is with us. He is the president and founder of the New Democrat Network, the website ndn.org, which is a group that supports the TPA, the fast track. And you note, Simon, first of all, welcome to the program.
Tom, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. And whether you agree or disagree with Simon or with me or whatever on this issue, Simon's over at the NDN website, I see you noted in the House there are 20 representatives, Democrats, who have publicly voiced their support for Trade Promotion Authority for Fast Track. Brad Ashford from Nebraska, Amy Barra from California, Don Beyer from Virginia, Earl Blumenauer from Oregon. Which kind of surprises me. I knew Earl. Suzanne Bonamici in Oregon. Gary Connolly in Virginia, Jim Costa, California, Henry Cuellar in Texas, John Delaney in Maryland, Suzanne Del Bene in Washington State, Jim Hines in Connecticut, Eddie Bernice Johnson in Texas, Derek Kilmer in Washington State, Rick Larson in Washington State, Ron Kind in Wisconsin, Greg Meeks in New York, Jared Polis in Colorado, Mike Quigley in Illinois, Kathleen Rice in New York, and Kurt Schrader also in Oregon. And what you recommended, Simon, and I would recommend, is that you said there are many ways to thank these members, but the easiest is just to call the Congressional Switchboard at 202-224-3121, ask to speak to their office, and then let the receptionists know you wrote that you are grateful for their courage and support of TPA. And I would say, let them know that you that you oppose TPA, because I do. But
I provided you the phone number, Tom. So
yes, yeah.
Encourage your listeners the rest of the next couple of days to do so.
Yeah. So here we have these trade deals that are being negotiated in secret by big corporations that historically have, in my opinion, and I think that of most Americans, screwed the American workers. Ross Perot got 20% of the vote in '92 just on this one issue. And I don't think that sentiment has changed that much. If anything, I think Ross Perot would probably get more votes. Of the members of the Democratic members of Congress who voted for in 1993, who voted for NAFTA, probably Tom Foley is the most famous. He was the speaker. He lost in his own district. In fact, in his obituary, the New York Times noted that he was the only Speaker of the House to lose his reelection in his own district since the Civil War, and it was right after his NAFTA vote. Why would any Democrat, given how unpopular this is, be supporting Trade Promotion Authority or Fast Track?
So, Tom, first of all, it's not unpopular. I mean, if you look at most polls taken in the last few months, there's majority support in the American people for the president's trade agenda, and there are more Democrats support it than Republicans. And so it's not unpopular. Second of all, I was part of those elections in 1993 and 94. There were a lot of other issues at play there, and we could debate that for a long time. And I think it's an overstatement to say that the losses in 94 were specifically due to a trade vote. But listen, here's why I'm for TPA. Let's get right to it, right?
Sure.
Is that I think global trade is a reality. The question is, what are going to be the rules of the road that govern the way that countries and companies and workers all deal with one another? And I think what the president is trying to do is to dramatically improve that system by negotiating higher labor standards, higher environmental standards, and better rules of the road for how this trade is going to take place. I think one of the mistakes that's made, excuse me, I have allergies or something today, I apologize, is some of the opponents of TPA, I think one of the mistakes they make is argue that it's trade agreements themselves that have generated the economic conditions of the world. I mean, China is not privy to many trade agreements at all, and yet they're trading with people all over the world. I think
well, we gave them we gave them permanent normal trade relations.
We did,
that wiped out our tariffs.
With countries, they don't have bilateral or multilateral agreements like we do. They don't do that kind of stuff.
No, they engage in massive trade protectionism, and the consequence is that they've had the fastest growing economy, arguably in the history of the earth. I mean, shouldn't we be imitating China rather than giving away the store?
I don't think so. And I think as the party that actually created the global free trade system back in the 1940s, because we understood that freedom of economic opportunity was inextricably linked to political freedom, right, which was the core of the FDR's argument coming out of World War II, it was our party that built this system. What Barack Obama's doing is making it better and more applicable for 21st century realities. He's trying to extend it to more countries, try to cover more industries, and also raise standards around the world, rather than lower standards, to raise them, right? I mean, why else would a Democratic president who had the majority support of the American people twice and who's done things like pass universal health insurance for the first time in decades, why would he be going out and doing something that would be explicitly hurting the working people that he's gotten up every day in his entire administration and fought for?
Well, that's something I've been wondering too, and you know, and a lot of people are wondering that. I look at Bill Clinton. You know, he did this, and now he's worth $100 million. You know, you know, that's a very cynical perspective, but I can't. You know, why these trade deals are negotiated by corporations. You got 500 corporations.
That's false, Tom, that's false. I mean, I know the people who are negotiating these trade agreements. I see them all the time. They're in offices at USTR. They travel around the world, right, representing us. Most of them are career diplomats, right? They're not people who've worked in the private sector. They're career negotiators and lawyers for the American government who've committed their lives to try to get the best deal for American workers and American companies they possibly can. And so
how do you respond to Elizabeth Warren's comment a few days ago to Politico? She said, just two sentences, and yep. you can respond. She said, this deal would give protections to international corporations that are not available to United States environmental and labor groups. Multinational corporations are increasingly realizing that this is an opportunity to gut U.S. regulations that they don't like. And we just saw this recently, last week, where the World Trade Organization, another one of these deals that we bought into, said, no, I'm sorry, United States, you cannot require country of origin labeling on your meat.
I think that the ISDS, the stuff that she's specifically addressing, is been around for a long time, and it's not something that's been used. It's not companies have not been abusers of the system that's already been in place. This is not a new.
It was used to stop dolphin-safe tuna in the United States. It was.
Now, listen, when we enter into treaties, and the reality for the United States, and the reason why I think the president has majority support for what he's doing, is that Americans appreciate the fact that our president is leading and trying to shape the future for the United States companies and our workers. That trade is a reality. The question is, what kind of trade are we going to have? And I think that what they're doing in these agreements, based on what the president has told us, what other countries are saying, right? I mean, so we saw the G7, for example, just come out announcing some of these trade partners of ours, right, announce that they're going to try to eliminate carbon fuels altogether by the end of the century, right? I mean, these things can be done together. And I think it's really a question of whether or not the United States is going to shape the rules of the road of the 21st century economy, or we're going to allow others to do it, or whether we're going to retreat altogether. And I think that that's why I'm proud of what Obama's done, which is that he stepped up in very difficult circumstances, using the tools that are available to us today. I mean, treaties are treaties. I mean, you give up.
Well, if this was a treaty, then it requires two-thirds of the Senate. You can't do fast track on a treaty. Is this a treaty or not?
This is the reason that Congress is passing trade promotion authority is that they're setting the terms in which the president's supposed to be finishing the agreement, and which they are then defining their own. They are giving up, to your point, right? They're giving up the authority to amend and to put it through the traditional committee process, because we understand that if that were to happen, that other countries, based on experience, right, other countries would not make commitments and
would bail.
concessions.
Okay, we're out of time. Simon Rosenberg.